22. Hi again. Edmond Gruss has been discussing the Jehovah's Witnesses, the Divine Purpose book that came out in 1959. In this book, Apostles of Denial, published in 1970, he had written much of this material for his thesis some years before that, so he's writing from the perspective of the early 1960s. And here he's reached points 16 and 17 in his analysis of the Divine Purpose book. It is interesting that in order to cover doctrinal changes, the witnesses omitted from their historical account the 358-page book, Life. This book, in keeping with the theology of Russell, sets forth in unmistakable language the future hope of the Jew in realizing the promises made to Abraham. The following is a typical statement from Life. Quote, "First we shall consider the certainty of the promises that Israel shall be returned to Palestine." Unquote. This literal interpretation of Old Testament prophecy cramped the Watchtower Society in its teaching of the Bible, so after a short time the literal was allegorized. Schnell, that is William Schnell, remarks, "As the book's red cover had augured, it was but a red herring, and its premises were soon discarded by the Society." So by 1931, when they became officially Jehovah's Witnesses, this idea that Israel was to be returned to its land, and this was definitely the center of biblical prophecy of the Second Coming, that was all gone. Then he goes on to the basis upon which the credibility of the Watchtower rests, their supposed ability to interpret the Bible, not infallibly, but better than anyone else. Where do these interpretations come from? He says, point 17, a strange request was made by the New World Translation Committee. The one request of the Translation Committee was that its members remain anonymous even after their death. That's Divine Purpose book, page 258. Why this omission of information is needed, as evidence had been presented that Nathan H. Knorr and F.W. Franz headed the Committee of Seven. Knorr and Franz are presently the president and vice president of the Watchtower Society. The following quotation, which summarizes and comments on testimony given in 1954 by Franz, is enlightening. According to the Scottish Daily Express, November 24, 1954, Franz testified, 1. That he and N.H. Knorr head the secret translation committee of Seven. 2. That Franz and Knorr, not the committee, have the last word. 3. That he, Franz, is the head of the Society's publicity department. 4. That translations and interpretations emanate from God in this way. A. They are invisibly communicated to the publicity department. And B. This is accomplished by angels of different ranks who control witnesses. From its beginning, the Watchtower Society has fulminated against all such as this as demonism, warning against it constantly for decades. According to the Watchtower, then, the Watchtower has succumbed to demonism. Now that's a quote from a work by a Mr. Goodrich, which we'll get to in a minute in the footnote. Now, Gruss concludes this section on the Divine Purpose book this way. As has been shown by just the few examples brought forth, that's 17 of them here, this history of the Jehovah's Witnesses, first in serial form, that is in the Watchtower in the 1950s, and finally in book form, the Divine Purpose book, is full of inaccuracies and rewritten history. This account is certainly not unbiased, and much cannot be received as trustworthy. A full study of this book would occasion a book of equal or even greater length. After this brief review, the reader is left to weigh the facts presented to determine the credence that should be given to this book, Jehovah's Witnesses in the Divine Purpose, next time he gets into Marley Cole's book from 1955, Jehovah's Witnesses, the New World Society. But here's the footnote about Goodrich, who had said this, citing the Scottish Daily Express, the citation about the translation committee and who actually is giving this information and these interpretations to the Watchtower. Here's what Gruss has to say about Goodrich's Back to the Bible way. The quotation is found beneath the article in the Scottish Daily Express, November 24th, 1954. The duplicated Express article and the comment is found in publication 321 of Back to the Bible Way publications. Back to the Bible Way are publications which have been written and distributed by Roy D. Goodrich, who lived in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Although Mr. Goodrich has much informative material dealing with the Watchtower Society and can be considered authoritative in much of what he says in this area, his theology is still basically that of C.T. Russell, with some important changes. The abbreviation BTTBW, which will be used throughout the rest of this book to designate these publications. Most of these numbered materials are mimeographed. Some of the names which appeared on this literature over the years are Back to the Bible, Jehovah's Witnesses with Florida address, the Bible Way publications, and Back to the Bible publications, the Bible Students, and the author's name, Roy D. Goodrich. The writer has checked, this is, Gruss says, that he has checked the comments against Franz's recorded testimony in the Scottish Daily Express article and found that they are accurate. I'll put in a link to the similar claims about where Rutherford said he got his interpretations from. Angels. JFR had said that very clearly in his book Preparation in 1933. So I'll put in a link to a video we did on some of the quotes from that book. See you soon.